Can we have our session chairman, Mr. Tarun Mishra, member CIDX committee and founder Covacsis India?
Good afternoon, all of you. I think the previous session was very good, and the topic was catalyzing, transforming, creating, innovating. So I think you guys are already transformed, already catalyzed, already created. So it's easy for us to moderate this one. So, what we are going to do is, in this session, we are going to focus on, hence, since you guys are already transformed, so we are going to focus on the realities of making it. That what does it take to execute it? What does it take to kind of make it happen? And the entire session we have conceptually divided into 3 constructs. One is all about the application, digital application in real life across manufacturing segment and supply chain. The second is all about the ROI part, because no solution is a solution unless it promises and delivers return for the business. So we'll focus on the ROI. These are the 2 things. And then the third is cyber security, right? How do we ensure that the entire landscape is secure, safe, gives confidence to industry to embark on, right? And not worry too much about the data security, data theft. So these are the 3 constructs. We have very esteemed panel here. You have already heard where they are coming from, so I will straight away go to the agenda. The context is that, we spoke about last session, spoke a lot about the digital thing. And we have to cover a lot here, so let me straight away go to Mithu.
Hello.
Mithu is from Entity Data and is heading India and APAC. So, to you, I want you, through you to understand, and I want audience to get from you that how digital technologies are disrupting manufacturing world, and what is the future trend. And I will keep a check on the time, so you feel free, you don't worry about time, I'm worrying about time.
Okay, Tarun, thank you. And good afternoon, everyone. I think we know there are a gamut of technologies actually changing the paradigm of the digital transformation in the manufacturing. And the journey from the industry 3.0 to 4.0 to 5.0, there have been a kind of long journey. We understand what is the difference between the 4.0 and the 5.0. One is the cyber physical system, another is the people-centric transformation. Now coming to the real question that what is actually changing in the manufacturing? Initially, in the industry 3.0, we did not think that machine can communicate. Machine has their own voice. Shop floor has their own voice. So the attempt has been to capture the voice of the machine, the voice of the shop floor, and connect them. We wanted to make the association of the machine, association of the process, and then we want to understand what they say. Where is the gap? Where is the bottleneck? Why the machine is not performing? And when the maintenance is required? If the maintenance is required, what is the reason behind that? So, in a sense, the data have been the god, the paramount god from machine, from the process. So we want to catch that. We want to transform the machine voice into the human voice, and we wanted to transform the shop floor. That is the reason in the entity data we have one of the offering, branded offering called the software-defined manufacturing. Today, if you look at manufacturing, it's not just manufacturing. In the core, in the heart, actually, the software is there. It is driving everything, every aspect of the manufacturing. So, We have digital twin, we have computer vision, we have IoT, we have multiple technologies. But at the end of the day, the integration of the ecosystem and bringing them in the same platform and getting the effective kind of output of that technology to drive the manufacturing is basically the paramount aspect. So this is the way I think the technology is changing the manufacturing. Thank you, Tarun.
Thank you, Mithu. So basically what you are saying that if I see the future of manufacturing and the application of digital in manufacturing is all about Twitter of machines, if I have to metaphorically say. Machine tweets. Machine says good, bad, ugly about itself. Machine says what they need, what they don't need, when do they need interventions. Machine says about quality. Machines can say about the cost of production also. Now, all of it is the future trend. To begin with, we are saying today we are starting about data, connectivity, but very soon it results into a Twitter equivalent of machine. That's the future trend. Joshi, to you, so Joshi is leading Infosys. Europe is based out in Switzerland and head of practice of aerospace and defense of Infosys vertical. And he's also on the board of Infosys Consulting. You have been with the aerospace and defense sector for a very, very long time now. And we truly believe that aerospace and defense is the one sector where the advancement and adoption of digital had been there forever. It's not something new for them. However, of course, there is always some opportunity. How can you bring in that perspective for a larger manufacturing landscape and share your view that how aerospace and defense in the last few decades have already embarked the journey of digital technologies, algorithm, AI, ML. There's nothing is new for you. How they have adopted it, how now the upcoming of the reducing price of computing and the software and the hardware, all of it now is becoming commercially viable for rest of the industry to adopt, and what they have to learn from the aerospace and defense.
Sure. Thank you, Tarun. It's my pleasure to represent Infosys here. Before I actually start off, I always want to make it more contextual and more relevant. How many people in this audience are basically from an aerospace manufacturing group? Can you just raise a hand? There's one there. The reason I asked that question is most of us, we know that aerospace is all about flying in the plane. So I think this industry, you take a step back, this is a long cycle industry. And we have this very famous saying in this industry that it's been there for 3 decades, which we've been working on. Make it digital before make it physical. So that has been a philosophy for the last several years. And what has been that basically means is, you do everything in concurrent engineering. When I'm talking about, I myself was basically a design engineer back in Airbus, and we used to have this kind of a component design, build, manufacture, maintenance team together to manage and then define the problem and start working on that. So that is a concept which has been adopted long time. So in an aerospace, and because of that, digitization of that is well adopted. Number 2, historically, most of these industries have been basically either a quasi-government and basically publicly funded. So the largest compute infrastructure was very much there in that infrastructure. A lot of innovation around digital happened in this because compute infrastructure was very much there in this industry. Whereas now, fast forward 3 decades, the compute is basically commodity now, right? So I'll give an example how this industry is basically leading. If you look at in this industry, from the design till it actually retires, you're talking about a 40 to 50 years kind of life cycle, whether it's an airframe or there is an engine or anything on a component. And the people who know these aerospace industries, you'll understand that as in this entire 40 years of the life cycle, if there is an eventuality happens to that, if you're not able to trace that, where that particular material or where that process has been happened way back to 40 years, seriousness is you will actually end up losing the license to operate. So that was a mandatory, which actually driven to be a big digital adoption companies. That's where the aerospace is basically very heavily digitally adopted. Now, this industry is, when it comes to the upfront, we talk about more on design space and more on manufacturing space. It's a pretty a lot of automation around that. You can look at the productivity of that much, much higher. Again, more of digital tools. But post-COVID, this industry is actually learning a lot of things from the automotive and supply chain industry. So what happened in a post-COVID is, if you just look into an aircraft, just go to an airport, you'll know that everybody wants to be flying, and then a traffic thing has gone up big. All these aircraft companies are basically airframers as well as the tier 1 companies got a major 2 challenges. One is increase rate. You're talking about probably about a 3x of the rate what we are talking about currently. So how do you make this typical batch process to the mass production process? That is something which they've been grappling with. They're learning something from an automotive industry around that. So in the MES, when everything around an optimization on the MES is something which they'll be learning. Second is, it's because you do not be able to make an enough aircraft, how do you make sure that the aircraft flies much longer, much further, and through digital technology? What is those data which has been basically there? They've been flying over 40 years, they can harness that. So back of that, with Infosys, we have actually developed this called as, it's built on our AI, Gen AI platform called Topaz, which basically gives a knowledge assistant. We call it a knowledge assistant for the different profiles, the personas, right? So whether you're a mechanic on the aircraft, which is basically maintaining, or with the person who's basically doing machining in the shop, they can actually pull out the personas and then make them a digitally literal and digitally certified before they actually start getting into that. These are a lot of things which actually the other industry can straight away do it. And then it's also the good news is it's not an expensive one. Most of these are basically an open source platform, right? It's an open source. You can actually learn from that big time. And this is what I say that make it digital first and physical later. It's becoming actually affordable now. The ROI is big there. So.
Thank you, brilliant. How exciting audience, and this is something I want you to understand that when we are talking about digital and how digital is going to change, it's no more a theory, it's no more the imagination, it's no more the ideas. There is an industry which has done and dusted using digital. I mean, when you make a missiles or aeroplane, once you have thousands of aeroplanes flying at any moment and they are all connected to the ATC, what are those? Those are the classical example of IoT. Those are the classical example of algorithms, AI, ML. The decisions are taken by algorithms. And that had been happening for 40, 50 years. That's not something new. So why we, in the typical process industry or discrete industry and automotive and cement and textile and pharma, why should we cast a doubt about digital? Why should we not say, it didn't happen with us, now it's happening with us. Accept it and move on, right? So that's something which we want to take away from this session. So thanks, Joshi, for that. Moving on to the next panelist, Rupam Chaudhary, who is heading healthcare and pharmaceutical business of TCS. I would like you to educate us and teach us, Rupam, that what could be considered or what should be expected from Gen AI in manufacturing, or you can pretty much use your own sector and industry and how they have been using. I'm sure various devices and healthcare devices are using a heavy AI, ML and algorithms. So what should be expected out of Gen AI technologies in manufacturing operation or supply chain?
Thank you for that question. I'll give a little bit of background where my particular industry, life sciences and healthcare, relates to. Tomorrow, assuming that there is a patient who has had a massive event. Event could be even death. The law and the regulations are such that the affected parties, especially the manufacturing company, has to be able to recourse the genealogy of everything that went into making the device, including the worker's qualification, the material supplier, certification, the testing which was done, the rationale which was used for designing the process, etc. The impediment really in applying Gen AI or AI is the fact that if the machine makes even a summary on which decision is taken, who owns the ownership? In other words, liability. The limiting factor is only liability. In fact, the majority of the use cases of AI, Gen AI is in quality and manufacturing. To answer your question, given the background of what I said and the limitation hence being the liability that comes on the manufacturer. Other than that, as you're aware, because of the need for genealogy, the amount of data is huge that is used in both discrete batch manufacturing as well as process manufacturing. So because of that, Gen AI has a perfect use case. For example, writing summary reports of what happens during the R&D process. Today in Europe, there is a new regime which is in place for med devices, which is the UMDR. And a lot of the work which is being done to qualify the process, the products for to be sold in the European Union is actually assisted by Gen AI. Because humanly, it is not possible to clear the backlogs. We are also in conversation with the notified bodies that when they are using Gen AI to actually qualify their qualification process. Because the backlog is so huge that the current rate at which they can manually clear this backlog to get simple approval, which is both product design specifications, performance specification, as well as manufacturing process and specification. It's huge. So Gen AI is indeed playing a very critical role. But I want to bring the context to India a little bit, if it's okay. I think India, we have an advantage in the sense that it's a good thing as well as a bad thing. The bad thing is that we are not as litigious as the Department of Justice of the United States or the FDA of the United States or the CER organizations in the European Union. So we have an advantage that we can actually deploy this technology without much of a risk. We can gain from the productivity advantages as and when our regulatory agencies, the government also catch up with it. So we have an advantage that way. The use cases, to be more specific to your answer, is around any kind of summaries that need to be written to prove that batch record is correct, or to prove that the summarization of the clinical literature to support the efficacy of a device is correct. So we are doing tons of that today. But the bigger question is, in the use of Gen AI, is not the use case. What we have been successful in, and this is something as an advice to all the manufacturers, representatives here, is you have to think of your entire framework of your organization by which you will deploy Gen AI. It's not about the use case. Use cases are plenty. You can do POCs, you can play around with it all the time. But the important thing is, as an organization, you have to ensure that there was a platform and a framework in place by which you can bring in elements of Gen AI, the LLMs that you want to use, the cybersecurity framework that you want to adopt, what are the guardrails that you want to put in place for intellectual property protection and all. So it's a really big picture that needs to be put in place first, and then in a very organized manner, you can have different organizations. For example, finance has a huge benefit to get from Gen AI. Your HR has a great benefit to gain from Gen AI, efficiencies to gain from Gen AI. But the overall platform must be in place in which the organization, especially the CIO organization, if you have one, puts into place a platform directly or in partnerships with advice from companies like TCS to put a platform in place, and then you can we push through all the use cases in a validated manner. So you don't run into the risks of your intellectual property being at risk or your cybersecurity being at risk. Hope that suffices.
Oh yeah, brilliantly. So what I understand that I draw a parallel between what Joshi spoke about the aerospace and the defense and what you spoke about the healthcare. So one is that both of these industries are compliance heavy, and the regulatory bodies are so stringent that you have no choice but complying with the last level of detailing. And that's where, wherever there is a mandate, wherever there is no room, digital has done wonders in the past. Which brings the same thing that, so digital is no more a new concept, the way most of us kind of understand. Secondly, you already told about a lot of intelligence-based use cases and GenAI use cases, particularly in the quality aspects of the pharmaceutical and healthcare. And and there is, I want audiences to draw a conclusion that, because if it is already happening in the quality in pharmaceutical and healthcare, how to draw an application for your specific industry, whether you are coming from chemical or cement or metal or whatever. So that could be one area where we can all look at that, how Gen AI is going to simplify what these industries have already been doing for so many decades. So that brings me, interestingly, to Sudeep. Sudeep, who is a co-founder of Zeliot. I hope I am pronouncing the company's name correct.
Zeliot is right, yes.
Zeliot is the right name. Perfect, thanks. So, it's a challenging that at one end we have industry like aerospace, defense, healthcare, where, and also to some extent automotive industry, where digital, IoT, and to some extent algorithms had been at the forefront. Of course, it is being done and was done using different technologies of those days, where things would be started with the mainframe and possibly, progressed, how technology changed. And now, a news and company like yours, who started in 2018, 5 years on horizon, how do you see that challenges of platform coming in, where the volume of data are going to be like never before, the speed of the data is like going to be never before, and the algorithm, the demand and the use cases, number of use cases in one factory, it's no more going to be limited to the compliance part and the quality part, because these technologies have to solve the productivity problem, quality problem, energy problem, safety problem, compliance problem, everything. So what is happening that your platform is really can either become the bottleneck for the digital or detrimental, or it can be the true enabler. How are you prepared, and how do you promise to the market, to the world, that how the news and companies and platforms are coming to take care of such challenges?
Yeah, thanks, Tarun, for the question. First of all, great to be here, because I think I'm one of the companies which is very young in this domain. We started in 2018, and good to hear from the experience that is out there on the panel. So I could add some context from the data platform side of it, because that is what we predominantly do. And Tarun, as you rightly mentioned, just being into this for about 7 years now, we've really seen the transition of data happen. Right? Because when we started off with the platform, we were really dealing with the technology on the edge was on 2G. And the quantum of data as a technology that 2G can give you and the frequency at which it can give you was really low, right? So we could get in occasional pings from machines or vehicles, say at about a minute frequency, or about, maximum at about a 30-second frequency, or so on. Where, while we sit here today, just 7 years into this, where 4G has come in, consumer has already moved on to 5G, but we are, as an industry, dealing with 4G. The most recent use case that we are working with currently today involves ingesting data onto the cloud at a 500 millisecond frequency from every asset that is connected. So why is it essential, first of all, to collect data at this frequency? Is because we are dealing with autonomous vehicles, we are dealing with different kinds of machinery within a facility, which requires that kind of a constant monitoring. And the advantage that this brings to the table when you're really sampling the data at that higher frequency is it allows you to make very real-time decisions around safety, around productivity, and also drive how can you actually make the ROI better towards improving the quality of production. So when we look at the limitation or some of the challenges that we today foresee, and overall as a data platform as a whole, I think we have to break down the problem into two halves, right? There is the cloud part of it and there is the edge part of it. What we've seen with our experience is more often than not, especially in India, since all of us are on the software side, the edge part is a little ignored, I would say, in terms of what are the innovations we could drive on the edge. But I think with edge technology massively improving, we have AI chips now that are getting more and more affordable on a daily basis. Instead of driving intelligence on the cloud, we really have to start looking at how can we drive intelligence on the edge. All right, and driving intelligence on the edge is a challenging process because the framework within which a certain machinery operates changes over a period of time. So the intelligence has to adapt to that change, right? You want platforms to be able, where you're able to deploy newer intelligence over a period of time, where you're able to do continuous learning from the operation of the machine and so on. And doing this on the edge gives you a massive advantage because on the cloud, still you are getting data at a relatively lower frequency of 500 millisecond or 1 second. But on the edge, you are able to sample this data at a 10 millisecond or a 50 millisecond frequency from these machines, right? So you can do a lot of real-time intelligence, real-time data decisions on the edge. So that is the real-time nature of it. And the second very interesting part of it, which kind of ties into the ROI, is actually the lesser data that you push onto the cloud and the lesser intelligence that you drive on the cloud, you could massively bring down cloud costs. Right, we've seen this happen with multiple organizations that we work with, where often the first line of thought is, why don't we push everything onto the cloud? We'll store it in a database. It sounds really easy. We could drive intelligence out of that data. But the moment you start scaling this setup, cloud cost becomes a massive deterrent. And cloud cost is a big part of the BOM when you deploy a solution like this, right? So, and that becomes a bottleneck in terms of scaling this. And people really start questioning the ROI because when you have SMEs, smaller companies really trying to adopt this technology, the moment cloud cost goes really high, the kind of management questions the whole thing, right? Because you want this to be an enabler, you want this to be an enabler of productivity and efficiency, and here you have a lot of cloud cost that has been built up because the way the whole problem or the whole solution has been structured, rather. So it's really important to drive it on the edge. And even still, you can't avoid a few things on the cloud because on the cloud, you're looking at ingesting data not just from your equipments, but from your ecosystem as a whole. So you could have data coming in from some of your suppliers based on when their shipment is going to arrive or the quality of the shipment that is coming in and so on. So you kind of need to ingest all of that still onto the cloud and try to make sense of that in real time. And this data goes up really high. So I think one strategy there that we've seen works really well is with cloud providers, although it is good to do short POCs and so on, you need to take a long-term view on cloud because you could literally sign up for RIs, which is reserved instances, long-term contracts with cloud providers, which literally we've seen the BOM go down by 50% in some cases when you do that. So taking a long-term view on cloud, on the platforms on the cloud and really focusing on the edge is something that would be a long-term view and a long-term solution for this is what we see.
Thanks, Sudeep. So very interesting paradox which you have said that consumer are on 5G while industry is still on 4G equivalent or maybe sometimes 3G equivalent. Yeah. That's reality. Edge versus cloud paradox. I'm sure there are as many cloud supporter as there are, on-prem. So that's a good paradox to know about, think about, and be aware about. And the data speed. As you spoke about that, the conventional automation and the historians of the world, which were that once in 30 seconds or maybe once in a minute. Now we are talking about there are processes where you are doing millisecond. So, there are various industrial application or processes. For example, if I talk about the steel or the aluminum industry in the cold rolling mill, the speed of the line is so fast that you have no choice but scanning your coil or your billet or your slab in millisecond. Likewise, in certain critical chemical equipments where in millisecond, the safety can get compromised. So the fast data is becoming the new, bringing the new paradox and challenges and opportunities as well. Yeah. Perfect. So moving on to the technology, taking the technology thing further, Johar, coming to you, Johar, you are heading CP Plus and a lot of work around visual technologies. What we learned from Sudeep was more on the structured data side of the factory. So factory gives you a lot of structured data through its machines, SCADA systems, and other things. Then on the other side, there are a lot of unstructured data. For example, cameras, vision systems, which are actually not really as much as it should be on a typical manufacturing shop floor. You have CCTV everywhere. But the world where it is going, where cameras are equally capable of doing a lot of things. A lot of quality inspections are happening based on the vision technologies. And I'm not just trying to trivialize it by saying camera. So my apology. Vision technology, which is actually driving a lot of quality aspects, safety aspects, geofencing, and hazard, guarding people from various hazards at the work environment, transportation, infringements, theft. So actually vision system and visual systems are in manufacturing can and will do a lot about it from you. If you can throw a light on it and what you have already been doing and educate us on what more and what should be expected more from such technologies.
Sure, thank you. Thanks, thanks, Arun. See, I would just take you on to that what surveillance system is and what surveillance system was. What was the objective and what is the objective now? When we started in 2007, it was a luxury. It was just to view and just to put a board at the gate that you are under camera vigilance. And I am a big man, I have a camera installed at my house. So that was the starting period in about 2007. And it really happens that surveillance industry came into an effective role when probably I will take that credit on me, when it reaches to the big boss house and has given that what all surveillance can do. With the tagline of Upar wala sab dekh raha hai. So you must have seen that in big boss house. Then it becomes a commodity of every household. Now that evolution was there till the household, till industry realized that how surveillance can help us. When the applications are developed by surveillance industries, it is the infusion happens with the analytics. Then it reaches to the different applications of security and surveillance, that is traffic management and city surveillance by the police. The second thing is that industrialization or digitization in the industry using the surveillance equipments. So that is where I would focus on to the manufacturing and the objective of complete surveillance solutions change from viewing to the detection, and after detection it reaches to the recognition, and after recognition it reaches to the analysis, and after analysis it reaches to the alerts, and alerts to the right person to reduce the time of action. So this is what is the complete journey of a surveillance system right from day one till this in terms of objective. Now comes on to the industry or manufacturing industry. I will not take that police and traffic management where you have seen that we are even cutting a lot of challan on overspeed and without belt and all those kind of stuff. So that is one part of it. Second part of it is in school education. So we have installed almost 140,000 cameras in schools just to give parents 5 minutes in a day that what their guys are doing. Even the attendance are happening on this. Why I'm saying all this is that if you come on to the manufacturing side, right from the entry of the gate, where you use FRS cameras, which are face recognition cameras, that no unauthorized person is entering into the gate. Then you have got automatic number plate readers with no unauthorized vehicle is getting into the system. Then they are maintaining the speed within the industry, within the manufacturing industry. Then it is basically that whether the person entering into the working area or workshop area, whether he is coming with the complete PPE kit or he is wearing the complete set of emergency or safety kits, whatever they want. Now, why all this is basically to deter an accident. And if you deter an accident, if we talk about ROI, Tarun, one accident if you save, your complete ROI is covered. Whatever system you have installed, it completely covered if it takes or if it saves one accident into the site. Now come on to the production line. These cameras are now for observation. Now, when you are putting it onto the conveyor, I take an example of auto industry. Now, the manufacturing line is on. You are putting on components into different things. Now, at every stage, you have a camera installed. And that camera is learned that when this unit reaches to this stage, it must be having these 15 components. If one component is missing, it would give back the alert. So that you are catching this thing, saving on time. The second thing is that color differences. If there is a color difference into the system, like the vehicle is coming all black, there is a spot on this, you can reach that. Into the textile industry, the conveyor is going in and then the cloth or the fabric is going on. If you find any spot on this, the camera can look at it and give the alert. So I'm not going into the detail due to the time constraint, but these all are small things which helps you observe, take alert and take action on it, save on time, save on cost. So these are the things which cameras are doing. Accordingly, we had to develop those cameras. Now with this, I'll just take one more minute. With this kind of requirement which is coming in and with this kind of involvement, we had to build up a factory which is making 2.5 million cameras in a month instead of 1 million cameras which we have put in the factory in 2017. Along with this, the kind of requirement, because every industry has a different requirement, so we have to put a lot of R&D and customization at the back end. So therefore, why I am insisting that is that indigenization and depending on to the behavior and the requirement and the concern of the Indian industry, lot of customization are required into the analytics. So that is where the indigenization of these cameras are happening and we are working on that. So therefore, a strong R&D team is required. So that is where I think you can take it.
Thanks, thank you. So vision system is going to be the integral part of the entire digital journey. That's how I see it. Everything right from the in factory into factory out. You know, so there are use cases of vision system where you are tracking your trucks, you are tracking the movement, you are tracking raw material, you are tracking parts on the line as he spoke about, you are tracking qualities of the product, and some of the use cases I have seen which really outstanding use cases. Just for the benefit of here, I want so that you guys can go and imagine and reapply in your own life. One of the use cases is was that, you know, when shift change, there are thousands of workers who, you know, enter the factory gate within 5 to 10 minutes of interval, and then there are thousands of workers who leave the factory in the opposite side, right? Now, what they had done, they had put a cluster of 100 cameras, you know, completely every single millimeter of that, you know, that area is covered by the camera. Everyone who is moving, his face is recognized. It's reconciled against the HR system that Tarun Mishra has entered in second shift and Joshi has left, you know, who came in the first shift, he has left. Guaranteeing that there is a safe dispatch of Joshi from the factory at that particular moment. Now, how great that system is from the safety, because in a complex process environment where one person is missing and you don't know it well within time, it's a huge risk, right? So this was, I was completely taken, with this use cases and how industry is thinking. So it's up to your imagination. Vision system, do not trivialize it with the camera, do not trivialize it with the CCTV. It's the vision system which is going to make and create a lot of algorithms and intelligence which will help your manufacturing P&L, right?
Just
So
to
you
add,
yeah.
just to add to that, Tarun, I think it's also important. It's also frugal innovation. If you look at the entire vision system, cost, as you're talking about the panelist of 2007, earlier decade, now, it's completely affordable. This is what the aerospace industry is actually used to be earlier, have a premium. Now, everything now what we're talking about is in a fraction of a dollar cost. So it is very much affordable. ROA is right there. And compute infrastructure is commoditized. Entire vision system is commoditized. And we are talking about the data, and the data size is going to be getting commoditized. And the speed in which it's going to get commoditized is something unimaginable. The ROI will never be a challenge, and that's what my view is.
Absolutely.
That's what I said. One accident will save the complete arrow.
Perfect. So, so we spoke about a lot of application use cases, testimonials. We spoke about the structured versus unstructured technologies and how they are going to shape up the entire landscape. Coming to Deepak, you had HSC, usage and statistic, right? So, and you have championed in the MSME segment, which is a completely, very important part of manufacturing world, not from the country point of view, not just from the employment point of view, but also to make biggies thrive and grow, MSME must be taken care of. How does digital technologies allow you? How are you championing bringing in digital as part of your MSME agenda?
Absolutely. Thank you, Tarun, and thank you, CII. So I represent Hugsistic here. So we are primarily a software consultancy, a software services company, helping our customers on their journey to digital transformation. And this has actually given us, opportunity to interact with not just large manufacturers, but also a number of MSMEs. Right. So if you look at large, okay. So is it audible now? Okay. So if you look at large manufacturers, right, they are still in a very good shape, right, in their digital transformation, towards smart factories. Their processes are digitalized, their data lakes are set up. And they're already implemented. They're in the process of implementing use cases, right, in Industry 4.0, and they're actually experiencing the benefits and ROI, right. But if you look at SMEs, the situation is quite different. The ground reality is different. They are still using the ledgers. They are still away from paperless production. Information is not flowing freely between different verticals, right? They're all in silos. But the positive thing is that SMEs now understand the benefit of digitalization, right? And that's why they're working. They started working towards this direction, right? The challenge that they're facing, as per our interactions that we had with them, the challenge that they're facing is that the first is basically the legacy equipment, the legacy infrastructure that they're using, right? The machines that they're using or the machines they're manufacturing, they're not IoT enabled. And they're using proprietary interfaces. And it's not that straightforward to digitalize those equipments. Second problem is basically the lack of in-house expertise, right? The existing workforce is slightly different. It has different skill set. They may be, in certain scenarios, they may be basically very good in mechanical and electrical aspects, but they're not, they're lacking towards IT, expertise. Another problem is, of course, the funds. right? Because digitalizing, let's say, the whole factory, it requires certain upfront investment. And it also takes some time before the results actually start showing up, right? So what we recommend usually is that to overcome these challenges, what we do is that the first thing that they should is, rather than doing everything in a single shot, the right approach would be to do it in an incremental way. Identify those use cases in those impactful areas and implement pilots around those use cases before you get basically that hands-on experience, the benefits from those technologies, right? To further reduce the cost, we recommend use of cloud infrastructure and cloud-based IoT solutions, the one like you are offering, which can then later be scaled on as needed later on. Partnership with other MSMEs and even technology providers is another option, rather than doing everything in-house. Initially, that can be outsourced to the experts. And of course, the last thing is that, again, the patience is also required, because these are all IoT-based solutions. They are based on data, and it requires some time for data to gather up, right? And before you run analytics on that, and before you start seeing the results, it takes some time. So that's also something that we recommend.
Perfect. So yeah, I'm sure, because we have, though my company works predominantly in the mid to large segment, it's only opportunity basis we interact with MSME segment. But yes, absolutely, that's different world, different problem, different challenges, and it's our responsibility that how do we bring and not leave in the digital agenda, because then that will drag the entire industry down if MSME is not equipped very well digitally. Johar, to you. So we spoke about a lot of things. Why don't we also share security? You spoke about the surveillance and all that. Now I'm just trying to take a cut from there to the cyber security. When it is coming about the vision-based camera or the digital technology, what are those minimalistic cyber security compliance or standard which you must expect out of any digital technology, whether it's a platform, whether it's analytics, whether it's algorithm, or whether it's a hardware? What are those minimal cyber security compliance or need? If you can speak of, these are the 3-4 things. If it is provided by the application provider or the hardware provider or the practice provider, industry should feel good.
I'll just take care. See, as you're aware that after this evolution of surveillance and this, camera becomes very vulnerable. It is there everywhere, and your most important data, whatever it is, whether it is the manpower, what is your process, whether it is your quality, it is going through or passing through the eyes of the camera. So security of that data becomes very important. And it's not only that manufacturing industry, even onto the other areas also, the security of the data is very important. And that is where MHA took up the charge. They have given the task to MITI, the Ministry of IT. They have come out with a gazette notification on 6th of March. It is called Public Procurement Order for all government agencies. There are OSP standards which are there for security and surveillance. There are about 24 points, out of which how your hardware is working, how your firmware is working, whether there is a vulnerability in the software or hardware. Those all 24 points are tested. And after that, there are 6-7 points onto the trusted source, from where you are buying the components, from where, what is the country of origin or the origin for the software. So all those points are being tested by a government agency called STQC. They certify the camera. After that only it can be sold to the government agencies. So this is one part of it for the government that STQC is doing that. There is a standard called BIS 13252, which is being given by the Bureau of Indian Standards. Without that standard, you can't sell camera into the market. Now that 13252 is only for the safety part of it. The second part of this security, all those 24 points are added to this BIS standard. So now if I want to sell camera even to a private industry, which would be applicable, that CRO is already released by the government, Gazette notification is already released by MIT. And this would be applicable from October or probably extended then from April next year, that every private industry, if we are selling the camera, it has to be BIS, and with BIS, it has to be tested on those 24 points from an NABL accredited lab or STQC. So that is what is the back-end testing government has already implemented, and we are working on this. So data is secure. You can use cameras and software, video analytics without any fear of data vulnerability.
So point is that, what we, through this question, what we wanted to say that there's a lot of thought is going on the security side, data security, data protection, data theft, cyber security. We'll be happy that, you as an implementer, you as an organization, you know that what are those few things which you must see your supplier be providing, and so that you are aware, you know it, so that your implementation is not at risk, or you see the good ROI, right? So going back, Deepak, with you, if you can share one success story in MSME, give me one example in less than a minute, elevated pitch.
Right.
This is a company, this is what they did digitally, this is the benefit they derived. So one real life success story.
Right, so there is a very small company manufacturing testing equipments, and so the problem they had earlier was that they used to send their service agents to, so wherever they were selling the machines, right? Because they were not IoT enabled. So when we enabled IoT in that, it started sending, parameters to the cloud, and they were getting more details into, what sort of problems that customer was facing before the actual customer came to know about it, right? So they started proactively patching those issues and remotely pushing, the software updates, right? So the customer satisfaction actually got enhanced, and they now don't require, these service agents to travel far locations in India, right? So that's actually, helping them financially as well.
No, perfect. So these are happening, particularly though in the OEM world. A lot of them are monitoring their machines across the geography from the central command room, and they exactly know which machine where, under what customer environment, how are they behaving against the SLA or the AMC promises which they have. And if there are any, any kind of abnormalities and deviations, their central command room knows, inform their respective local node that what is to be done, when and how. So a lot of that is already happening. So thanks, Deepak. Rupam, coming to you, you would have done a lot of turnkey project rollout across the globe, across geographies. How do you envisage, and how should a customer envisage, and also it's question for how the supplier should measure the risk of the project involved? Any digital, particularly when you are trying to roll out across enterprise, I'm not talking really about the pilot or POC or 5 machine, 10 machine. I mean, it's no risk there, you just experiment. But when you kind of roll out a larger implementation across multiple plants, across geographies, across functions, how do you size the risk of the digital project, and how do you mitigate it? I know it's a little difficult, but yeah, I mean, it's important that how do we de-risk our lives?
It's a great question, actually. You'll be surprised to know many a times it's not the customer who wants to know this, it's we actually ask the customers sometimes, because it's integral part of success, especially large programs, let's say manufacturing rollout programs, that inherent that we find many a time things which are not considered, because most large organizations are also departmentalized. Okay, so RFP comes or doesn't come, it's proactive for that matter. It's actually incumbent for us in the digital world to actually dovetail very well with the CIS organization and the CD organization. Because no business application, especially in manufacturing, is now immune to the CDO role or the CISO role, especially when you're talking about getting data from SCADA systems or historians onto the cloud, even with Edge AI to reduce the burden on cloud. So it is incumbent that a holistic conversation happens, and the definitions of what defines security, some companies have very good guidelines laid out, some companies don't, because you'll be surprised to know even today there are companies, global companies with million SKUs who are running on paper with very little digitization. And they have taken leaps of faith ahead in deploying, let's say, cobots or robots. So when you talk about bringing into wholesome digital platform, which is a large rollout program for companies like us, we take into account the holistic picture, bring in the responsibilities of the CDO and the CIS organization into picture, and actually build in the milestones to account for all that. So that then backtracks into your testing, it backtracks into your artifacts that you have to produce, so that they roll out. Now, the bigger risk, if you ask me, as if an entrepreneur or a CFO looks at the program, the biggest risk from the CFO's perspective is ROI. I think you have talked about it before, other panelists also have talked about it. I think this two-stage validation. First is ensuring that the program that we are envisaging is not built on fluff. Because there is, organizational and individual ambitions about doing certain things. But at the end of the day, if you don't get the buy-in from the CFO that this actually has worked, then your whole program is a failure. And companies like us, large companies and long-standing companies like us have seen both sides of the story. So today, leadership in TCS, we are very wary of ensuring that we understand this correctly, that we understand the implications, that we understand the roles, both security, cybersecurity, as well as the ROI. So we have frameworks in place. Our CTO has helped us build a lot of frameworks in place which we use to ensure that both technology as well as business ROI are accounted for and a believable measure of that is put in place. So then we sign up on it. Then we sign up, and part of it is also change management, because in this forum also you discuss it's not just technology change, it's people change, it's organizational change. It is actually change at the last layer. Yeah. Although you have digitally enabled the populace today coming in the workforce, but still change needs to be enabled. Coupled with it also is good system design, good UX design, UI design also. So not doing any of this properly is a huge risk, I would say. Yeah. So one should not look at only at the concept of a use case that, this will work, but you should look at holisticity.
Absolutely. So very, very interesting response. And so the way I see that risk framework must be very holistic. There are technology risk involved, the kind of technology and platform or application you are using, what if it gets outdated in 3 years? Technology is changing very fast, right? Your dependency on the people risk. The people who are involved in digital rollout, they move out. What happens to the project? It's important that as a vendor, we prepare organization that, how do you kind of build the digital capability in the organization rather than the individual brilliance centric drive, financial risk of the project. I mean, purely from the ROI point of view, how much money should I put where? Where is the immediate gain? Where is the midterm gain? Where is the long-term gain? Be aware. How do I measure it in terms of, and then how do I go forward? So great. So, these are the various risks I think we should all as a supplier and you as a consumer should be building it before embarking on any large digital journey. Coming to quickly, Joshi, to you that, we are still in the formative state largely in the manufacturing space, broader, except couple of industry like yours. It's still at the very formative state. How do you suggest people and companies and typical manufacturing company to kind of construct their ROI logic?
In fact, thanks, it's a brilliant question, right? So everything, end of the day, the dollar counts. So we have this famous thing about say-do ratio, right? So let me just pivot from that. Two things I'll be looking at when it comes to digital. Gone are those days that the digital is expensive, because as we talked about, things are getting commoditized. Let me just give an example, right? So we have talked about a vision technology. I'll give you one case example where if you look at in our industry, especially aerospace, aircraft on the ground is basically not making any money. So whenever there's aircraft comes to a hangar, especially let's say an engine, you need to do a turnaround an engine fast. Most of the engine suppliers actually charge they don't sell an engine, they actually charge based on flying hours. So there is an interesting case we have actually implemented completely on an open AI, completely an open technology, which is based on our Topaz platform, which we call as an intelligent inspection AI, where the engine comes onto the board and then engine can be stripped open and then inspected and certified. It used to be almost about 4 days. It can be done in now half a day. Now the most important part I wanted to also emphasize that was post-COVID, most of the workers who basically left an aerospace industry, they were not able to come back because it's a risk, and they need to train the new set of team and yet certify, right? So this is unthinkable. And all of that has been done on the fraction of a cost. I don't see any reason that, let's say, an intelligent boroscope inspection can be actually deployed straight away to the quality of inspection of the components you're talking about, right? So the vision technology is improved. It can actually detect much better. It can do much farther at the much fraction of a rate. So for me, it is two side I'll always look into. One, if you look at an operations, start looking at what the efficiencies are. I think everybody talked about how you can increase an efficiency. From the business side, what your use cases is to the paradigm though. Operations, efficiency, business case, use case. Pick up the use case which will directly hit the dollar. In this case, service industry I'm talking about, right? So
Perfect. Thank you. That really helps. And I think there is a learning for us that, how do we construct our ROI? Because that is always, our CFO always asks that, how much, if I am spending few crores, what am I going to get? And how will you guarantee that you will deliver, right? Of course, that's the easier answer. Most of the digital, right, implementation of digital had delivered value in less than 6 months of payback. I mean, I know in the morning somebody said 2.5 years of return, but digital is really, really faster than the conventional manufacturing technologies ROI. So you can actually, if the implementation is right, risk mitigation is right, I guarantee you that payback will be less than 6 months. It's unheard in manufacturing, but it's happening. And which is but the whole idea is that how do you construct that ROI is important. Going back to Sudeep, interesting paradigm for you, the company like yours and startups and early stages, including me, I'm not exception. At one end, demand of digital is going to increase rapidly. On the other hand, expectation of the market is going to go up. Regulatory, compliance, cyber security, all these compliances are coming in very hard. Where does it leave to the startup platforms? So when the companies here sitting in front of you, who maybe billion-dollar companies or maybe 1,000 crore company or even 500 crore company, why should they bet on startup? Because they will have a interesting thing that, will a startup company will have a cyber, I'm in your family, don't worry, against these guys. So we together has to answer that why should they believe that our platform is world's best platform, it's as good as the billion-dollar companies out of the US. Help me to sell.
All right, so I think you kind of answered it in the question, because you see the regulations are changing pretty much daily. And as I told you in my story of just 6 years, we've seen how things have changed. And I think what really shines through when partnering with startup, taking nothing away from the large enterprises on stage and in the audience, is the nimble-footedness that we come with in terms of adapting to the change, in terms of delivering value quickly, in terms of turning that one POC, showcasing the ROI to you on it, and then kind of delivering it at scale. So again, it's a startup with some experience of delivering before. It's not just somebody who's starting out a day or two into the business and that would deliver. Everyone has to go through some kind of a failing curve, learning curve, and then rising up back up again to be able to deliver. So early stage startup will play that pivotal role, and we do a lot of hybrid work ourselves. Just adding to what you said, we partner with say the likes of Infosys, we partner with a lot of large companies. So I think a partnership there would really shine through, because with the processes and the kind of governance, etc., that comes in from a large organization, mixed with our nimble-footedness would really deliver value.
Brilliant, brilliant answer. And that, I mean, I'm going to use this answer from today onwards. Any early stage company and startup comes to you, I mean, you don't have to show no faith or no respect. They are the disruptor. They are coming up with these very, very really innovative, bright solutions. But the point is, if you have to see the ROI in a mid to long term with them, make sure that they are aligned with right partners. There are right partners behind them, whether it's edge side, whether it's a hardware side, whether it's algorithm sides, whether it's a cloud, whether it's, so who are they coming up? And once they come with a partner and a strong ecosystem, they are as good as the whole ecosystem. So don't worry about it, right?
Absolutely.
So you don't have to look them in silos. Last question, 30 seconds, Mithu. I know you are trying to kill me. Do you want to kill me? Kill me. But for the audience, let me justify. We spoke about everything. We spoke about technology. We spoke about application. We spoke about cybersecurity. Last question, digital culture. You have 30 seconds. I'm risking. You have to answer. You have to answer my wife if I am dead. So go ahead, 30 seconds. Let's wrap up.
Yeah, I think the most important aspect is the digital culture, creation of the digital culture in any of the organization. That is most complex because that is the intangible kind of things in nature. So that starts from the strategy, from the senior management. This is not basically the bottom-up approach. This is top-down approach. So unless until I drive something from the top level, from the CXO level, I cannot really create the digital culture. We are doing multiple, digital transformation program in multiple different customer segments. Such, for example, we are actually implementing NVIDIA Omniverse program for some of the customers, then computer vision program, then Unreal Engine digital twin program. So I have seen the kind of, it brings the changes in the, brings in the organization. Unless until organization actually try to train their manpower, try to basically, create the capability among themselves, try to create the, change management system inside their ecosystem, you may not be able to successfully implement the digital technology. So at the end, I will say that it is most difficult aspect. We can discuss probably quite few hours, but starting from the change management, training, strategic vision is very, very important from the organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mithu. Thank you. Pleasure. So I hope, we could cover all the aspects, and I must, before, you will allow us to do Q&A or wrap up. Okay, so that's a mandate. I am not getting paid for that, taking that mandate, but I will take that mandate. So quickly, last thing, I must thank CII for giving all of us this opportunity and not killing us. I will stealing the time from the next session. Be generous enough, give them that much extra. And audience, please, I know we are coming between you and the food. So give us 10-15 minutes more in the next session. 24 Digital is doing the live telecast of this. So all of you possibly are there somewhere, and I hope the session was meaningful, useful, and there is a takeaway for you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, co-panelists. Thank you, CII.